One of the difficult subjects in this week's Parsha deals with the fact that when the Jews left Egypt, before they left Egypt, Moshe instructed them, V'yishalu ish me'Yisraelu v'yisho me'Shchento keser v'zo v'kelim. So the question arises, what is the nature of that payment? And how is it justified? What purpose did it serve? So with your permission, I'm going to discuss Friday morning the shir. But here I want to concentrate on the words that are used. The Torah says, Ish me'Yisraelu. Re'eu means my friend. Now, from the time of Matan Torah onwards, Re'eu or Rea is only used regarding Jews and other Jews. We do not find that the non-Jews are called Re'im at all anymore. Though before Matan Torah, we had, for instance, Yehuda in Parshas Breshis, Re'eu Adulomi. Chira was his friend. So what does Re'eu mean? It doesn't only mean friend. Forshim explained that it means that I view the other person as my equal. I view that the other person has worth to him that is equal to my own self-worth. That will explain, for instance, why Yehuda uses Hiram for a mission that most people would want to hide from other people. He's the one that has to go and find Tamar. He's the one that has to pay her. Michael Cohen. So Re'eu has this quality to it, that it's a quality of equality. And also the Torah says, Isha me'Shchento, the woman of the house, the Jewish woman of the house, from her neighbor. So again, the word shochen again refers after Matan Torah to Jews. But again, a neighbor means that someone who has stature with me, that I feel that that person has rights and quality and abilities. So the Torah here subliminally is teaching us that Moshe was telling them they're a nation of slaves. And the relationship of masters to slaves is that the slaves are not considered human beings. They're dehumanized. I mean, that's the basis of all discrimination in the world, of all oppression in the world, is that human beings don't count. They're not human. And they're described with all sorts of negative qualities. They're vermin, they're parasites, they're whatever was used. So the purpose of the Makos, as the Meforshim point out to us, was to make the Egyptians realize that the Jewish people were human beings, that they were their equals, and that therefore they were able to contemplate what they had done to them and what the crime was. And in Western civilization, for instance, throughout the 19th century, people felt that the whites felt that people of color were not their equal. And in the Second World War, they made the mistake of thinking that the Japanese were not going to be able to be a strong foe because they were Oriental. And Oriental is inferior to Caucasian. And that's the basis of avodim. That's the basis of slavery. That's what entitles one person to rule over another person. Because that's that feeling of entitlement that one has, that I'm so much better, I'm entitled. And part of the problem that exists in the world today is that there are many, many people who feel they're entitled to tell other people what to do, how to live, and what moral code to follow, and that they know better. And that's a different form of slavery. So Moshe wanted to illustrate to the Jewish people that somehow the Makos had achieved that the Egyptians now saw them Re'ehu, saw them as a Shachein. They no longer saw them as inferior. They validated them as human beings. And that's part of the process of freedom. Because unless the world grants you some sort of self-worth, and then you're never free. You're always subject to others. You're always subject to what others want to do to you and how they view you and what is your status in the world. So when Moshe tells them that they should ask for Chlei Chesed and Chlei Zohav, he's asking them for validation. You should ask, you'll see that it will be Re'ehu. They won't say to you, chutzpah, what are you asking for? You know, you're a slave, you're not entitled to anything. But you'll see that they will be cooperative with you. And the same thing, Ishomei Shchenta, and that they will see to it that you are, so to speak, their equal as a human being. And therefore, that becomes the stepping stone to freedom, because you can, the old saying, you can take the Jews out of Egypt, you can't take Egypt out of the Jews. That generation found it hard ever to get over that. That's why whenever they have a problem, they don't want to be independent. They say, Nitna Rosh v'noshuva Mitzrayma. They say, Zacharna, we remember, we were slaves, but we had what to eat. Because they're unable to free themselves. They're not able to validate themselves as human beings. And the Torah wanted us to appreciate that idea. The Gemara also mentions that Shelo Yomar Oso Tzadik, Avram Avinu shouldn't say, Va'avodum v'inu osam arba meos shona kiyam bahem. That part of the prophecy, the Lord fulfilled, that they would be slaves. And that v'achrechein yetzu b'rechush gadol, and then they'll go out with great wealth, lo kiyam bahem. But that didn't happen. So therefore, Moshe told them that they should go out b'rechush gadol. Now again, human beings are funny, strange. If somebody is enslaved and you give him his freedom, he's able to go out. So a kapora the money. But that's not the way people are. I told you the story about the grandmother whose little grandchild was swept out to sea, and the lifeguard miraculously saved the child and brought him back to land and gave him back to her, and she said he had a hat. That's our nature. It's not enough that we're saved, you want the hat. And so therefore that is also encrusted in this story. That for the Yetzu B'Chush Gadol, Avraham Avinu will have a taina, he'll have a complaint to God. How come? Why wasn't that fulfilled? So there are many ramifications to this issue that the Torah raises. There are many things that are relevant to our time as well, and it therefore certainly is important for us to study it to the extent that we can. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Yisrael V'Filcha Hirbo Lahem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar Adonai Chafetz Saman Tzidko Yagdil Torah V'Yadil.